Hey everybody, and I'm here to do a video about underrated fantasy books that I feel like you guys should be checking out now. This is a video which I'm going to be looking at fantasy books that show up on Goodreads with less than 2,000 ratings. So meaning that they have not been read, or at least have not been rated by a big amount of people. So most likely books that are flying under the radar that not a lot of people are hearing about, and that I actually have read and feel like, look, they are absolutely worth it. Alright, so I did look at this list about a month ago, and so from my shelves I took 4 books that I'm pretty sure are going to be showing up within this list, and the first one has just appeared. And it's sad that this is like the first proper one on this list, because this is a book that has 383 ratings only on Goodreads, and this is an absolute gem. This is A Portrait in Shadow by Nicole Jarvis. This is historical fantasy. This is light on the fantasy. It is about a real life female Italian paintress from the 18th century who was already living off of her art in that point in time. She was involved in a rape trial because the person who was teaching her painting classes took advantage of her, and so she is a feminist icon, guys, and too few people know about her. I only knew about her through this book, and so that is Artemisia Gentileschi. But so Portrait in Shadow is looking at the time after this rape trial. So we're looking at her when she moves to Florence or Firenze, and she is trying to establish her own studio over there and live off of her own art. However, she's also very much encountering a lot of misogyny on the side of the men that she sees in her life, as they have a certain image of her due to the widespread publication of facts surrounding this rape trial, and she's very much clashing with a local priest over his views on what she is, and her wish to just go about her life and live a life in a job that she has a real passion for. So the magic within this book is the fact that sort of is linked to painting. I don't fully remember. I will say that it's definitely like light on the magic. The real value in this book lies in learning about Artemisia and her life. And so yes, I've read a fair few books about Artemisia Gentileschi in the meantime. I think I've read 3 at this point in time, and actually all 3 of them have kind of focused on some other aspect of her life, and so but this one was the first one, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot, and so I would highly encourage you guys to pick this one up. Next up, with 440 ratings, we have Yumi by Sifton Tracy Anipare. I would definitely say if you are somebody who likes Studio Ghibli, then give this book a go, because this definitely will fit those vibes, especially when it comes to like the food core, because this is a story that kind of takes place in 2 worlds. It takes place in our real life world, where we're following a Black American woman who has moved to Japan. I don't remember whether it's temporarily or whether it's really like a permanent move, and who's dealing with the difficulty of living in Japanese society as a Black woman in a society that is not used to seeing many Black people, and in a society that is rather close, where it's more difficult for her to make connections. And then we also have a story that is set into what I kind of imagine as a sort of like Studio Ghibli-esque, like Spirited Away type of like level of reality, I guess, where we have more sort of like demons and all those things involved, or like it's a bit hazy to me at this point in time, but I remember it was a mix of those 2 type of worlds, and this is a story in which a lot of times you're gonna be craving Japanese food, because the descriptions of food within this one are also really amazing. But yes, I thought that this one was really interesting for both its contemporary story as the sort of like weird dream-esque type of storyline that's also interwoven with it. Oh, need to go and grab another book. Alright, so I'm not entirely sure whether the first one will qualify. We'll see that when I get further along in the list. But this is Dreamwalker by J.D. Oswald, first book in Sir Benfro and His Dragon series. No, the Ballad of Sir Benfro. But so we are following 2 characters in this one. We are following a young boy who is called Errol, and he is kind of like It's difficult to remember because I don't know how much of this is potentially going to be spoiler territory because it's been a long time. So we're following a boy on the one hand who's living in this like small town and who is fooled by somebody. I'm going to keep that very vague. And then we're also following a dragon who is basically like the last dragon of his kind. And yeah, I'm giving you nothing to go off, so let's just look at the back. In a small village miles from these great cities of the Twin Kingdoms, a young boy called Errol tries to find his way in the world. He's an outsider. He looks different from other children and has never known his father. No one, not even himself, has any knowledge of his true lineage. Deep in the forest, Benfro, the young male dragon, begins his training in the subtle arts. Like his mother, Morgorn the Green, he is destined to be a great mage. No one could imagine that the future of all life in the Twin Kingdoms rests in the hands of these two unlikely heroes, but it is a destiny that will change the life of boy and dragon forever. I really enjoyed the series a whole ton. I actually should find the time to one day reread it as well, because clearly a lot of it is like somewhat hazy in my mind. I know the beginning of the series, but I don't really know where it ends up culminating to towards the end. Next up we have a book that I'm gonna include because it is already out for 1 year. It has only amassed 481 ratings in that time. Typically a new release is more difficult, like I would not add it to this list if it was like super new, because then it's just like, yeah, not enough people have had the opportunity to read it yet, but it's already been a year, so I feel like that's a very low number, and that is Between Dragons and Their Rat by Devin Madsen. This book I really enjoyed. It was a surprise because I went in with like zero expectations. I didn't know, I hadn't read anything by this author before. I didn't know anybody's opinion about it, and I was like, okay, let's find out, and I really enjoyed this one. We are following multiple perspectives. The main perspective that we're following is like a young girl who is kind of being groomed to present herself as like the potential consort to this person in a place of high power. We're following somebody who is part of a sort of like elite society who basically is like sacrificing a lot of their time, a lot of their effort into protecting the realm, but getting like zero recognition for it. And then the third person that we're following is a good question. A dragon rider, right? Or is that the one I'm... Oh yeah, and then we have somebody, oh yeah, right. Then we have somebody who's working in sort of like a household where they have to do all these sort of like alchemical chores. And it seems like, you know, the people, it's like the people in charge know the effects of these things that will be like very bad towards the people who are working with these powers. And she's starting to sort of like see the effects starting to take place. I really enjoyed this one a whole lot. I'm really eager to continue on with this whenever the sequel is announced. And Devin Madsen actually also has another series. I think that one is like much better known within the fantasy spheres, at least. Like if you are like on the nose about what is available within the fantasy genre, you will have heard of them. But of course, I can nowhere find a list of her works within this copy apparently. So yeah. Yeah, it's called the Reborn Empire series. And I'm really sure that, like, the Rewrite the Storm, is that the title of the first one? I'll have the copies on the screen because these are much better known, at least. Alright, next up we have a novella that I've also mentioned quite a fair few times on my channel, and that is After the Dragons by Cynthia Jung. This is climate fiction fantasy novella in which we're following two boys who are kind of united with one another due to their love for dragons. So one of them is basically a volunteer at this sort of like shelter for dragons because the world is kind of going through a huge climate disaster, and especially dragons are suffering as a consequence of like the pollution of water and stuff like that is creating some sort of an illness within the dragon population. However, people also don't seem to care about dragons at all, and so this boy is volunteering for this shelter where he is like finding these sick dragons, because the dragons are just like, I don't know, dog size I would imagine, and rehabilitating rehabilitating them. And then this other boy gets involved, I don't really remember how, and then a beautiful relationships develop between the two of them. This book is lovely. It combines climate fiction with a fantastical world, but it is also somewhat heartbreaking. Next up, and I really haven't prepared well for this because none of my batteries are charged, and I see the battery symbol already flashing up again, and I've just changed it. Next up we have another book that I'm frequently mentioning when it comes to my favorite novellas of all time, and that is The Seven Perfection by Daniel Polanski. So The Seven Perfection is a very short book, it's a novella, and it is a novella that is told solely through answers. So basically we have this inquisitor who's going out to investigate a case, and we are only given the answers to the questions that she asks, but we never really know which questions she asks, and so the story is told in that way, and so it's something that you kind of unlock or like get a handle on, get a grasp on, as more and more elements starts to slot into place for you as a reader. Really interesting storytelling style, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot. Then we have another series of novellas, which this I think is the second novella in this series, and they are linked to one another, so maybe the first one wouldn't fully supply, but this is like a series by Moses Ozi Utomi. I think the first one is The Lies of the Ajungo, and in this list I now have The Truth of the Aleke, and a third one has actually come out in the meantime, or is about to come out, so I have to actually reread these novellas in order to continue on. But this is a African novella series in which we're looking at this world where there's like no water, I believe, so it's a sort of like warfare via access to water type of deal. And so he sets out to find water outside of the city, and there's all of this sort of like superstition about going outside of the settlement to look for water, and like nobody's ever made it and things like that. And as it's called The Lies of the Ajungo, there's a lot of lies involved and a lot of things that people have been told, and that's not necessarily the truth. I really loved The Lies of the Ajungo a lot. When I read The Truth of the Aleke, I enjoyed it less, and I think mostly because of the fact that it linked to the previous novella and that I didn't have enough of a solid memory of what happened in the first novella to fully enjoy the second one. I still enjoyed it in and of its own. I still gave it 5 stars. It was still amazing, but I did feel a little bit lost in it because of my lack of knowledge of what had happened in the first one. So I will definitely want to reread it before going into the third one. Another one that I actually have to go and grab, which really surprised me, that is in this range. Okay, and that is The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. Apparently it only has 1,400 ratings, which, where are you guys? This is an amazing book, and I really need to continue with the series because I enjoyed this one a whole lot, because this one kind of looks at two differing societies at conflict with one another, where you have like the raiding party and then like the townspeople who've always lived there, and basically this is kind of looking at how to resolve conflict through communication, through diplomacy. So it is not your typical let's go to war and solve battles by killing off the other side of the conflict. It is a book that is very much looking at how to go about to try and reconcile differences between cultures. So let me look at the actual like formal description for this book. So, war dragons, fearsome raiders, a demonic warlord on the rise. When they spot raiders on the horizon, the Knights of Black Keep saddle their war dragons, preparing to defend their people. But this time the raiders have not come to pillage. Driven from their own land by a demonic despot prophesizing the end of the world, this raiding fleet comes in search of a new home. Meanwhile, the wider continent of Narita is lurching towards war. The settlement at Black Keep is about to be caught in a crossfire, if only its new mismatched society can survive. I really enjoyed this one a whole lot, and as indicated, I really need to continue with this series. It's one of those that just like, I always, when I see this book in my shelves, I'm like, oh, I really need to continue with that, but I never make it a priority, clearly. Let's see if we still have something else. I have now stumbled upon the first book in the Ballad of Sir Bamford series, and it is below 2000 ratings, so the entire series does indeed fall within this range for this video. And let's see, I thought that this one, yeah, it's a sequel, so the first one will fall off, I guess. And yeah, I think the final thing beneath the 2000 like benchmark that I could mention here is The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. I'm a bit like on the fence about this book, and it is so close to the benchmark that I'm gonna leave it off. But so yes, these are some books that I have absolutely enjoyed. Quite a fair few of these are actually like 5-star reads that have gotten less than 2000 ratings on Goodreads so far. So like if you are looking for that hidden gem that nobody's talking about, if you want to like discover a fantasy book, then these ones I would say are definitely can qualify. If you want to be reading something that you haven't heard like everybody and their mother talk about, try these.